Got open man. DJ Moore. End zone. Touchdown. Touchdown Bears.
I am Jeff Joniak.
Blitz is on. Down he goes. Oscar.
What was it like playing for Coach Ditka?
I don't want to answer any questions like that.
Pressure coming. He's in big trouble. Down he goes. Montez Sweat.
And etc.
Now, Bears Etc. brought to you by Chevy Drives Chicago, the official truck partner of your Chicago Bears.
There is an emotional component that lingers, win or lose, when the Bears meet the Packers. And such is the case after meeting 209 in the rivalry. Bears rally, have a shot at the win with Super Bowl winning Bears guard Tom Thayer. I'm Jeff Joniak. We discussed today in episode 193 of the Bears Etc. podcast. This episode of Bears Etc. is brought to you by ChevyDriveChicago.com, the official truck of your Chicago Bears, and our typical Monday with Bears head coach Ben Johnson coming up. First, got to gauge the temperature of my partner here, a man who's been a part of 81 Bear Packer games. And yeah, 81. How'd number 81 feel?
Well, Jeff, I always say anticipation is my favorite emotion, and the game lived up to it. But I'm not walking into the bus or out of the stadium or into Hallis Hall with a woe's me approach. I felt that the Bears belonged on that field. And, in your conversation with Ben that everybody will hear, it's a couple plays that can go one way or the other. You kind of reformulate your plan and you play them in 2 weeks, but you can't forget about what's upcoming, and that's the Cleveland Browns. But I have a super positive attitude that continues to build because of Ben Johnson. So I think that the future is bright, and I can't wait to see how this end of the season unfolds.
And because there's the details, the devil's in the details, right? You see things that you go, wow. You watch the tape, you see the concepts, you see the designs, you see how hard this team plays, you see the near misses, you see the survival techniques and instincts that this team appears to have. Everything's coming down to the wire. There's a very cogent feeling about how they're going about it, a very sincere plan of attack, and even at the end of the game there, and how to go about it, and don't give the ball back to the Packers by any means. Finished the job right there. Unfortunately, that pass was underthrown and intercepted. Otherwise, we could be talking about even a major story, because he was going to go for two if they got that touchdown, more than likely. So all that on the table, and yeah, the rally was significant for me. This was not a blowout that we've experienced in Green Bay when there was a cave-in. There's no cave-in with this team.
One thing I appreciated the most, especially talking to Ben after the game, was the fact that even though they averaged 3.6 per running yards in the first half, the runs were really physical. They were really abusive. They take the long-term toll on a defensive front. Then they come out in the second half and they stick to their guns and they average over 5 yards per carry. And that's what really got him in there. And anytime, whether you're an active player, you're an active coach, you're a head coach, no matter what, you always talk about maybe a 2-yard run is going to pay dividends for a 6 or 8 yard run in the second half. And so you talk about the 3.6 yards per carry, Jeff, and then you look at that 17-play drive.
Yeah.
They had 3 3rd and 1s in that drive for 7 yards, 8 yards, and 9 yards. And it's because of that abuse in the early game that you take those 3rd and 1s. And we're always concerned about in the past, oh my God, we got 3rd and 1. We got to get that 1 yard. 1 yard's not good enough, even though it's 3rd and 1. So when you talk about 7, 8, 9 yard carries on 3rd down, you talk about how many more plays that leads to. So I guess when you look at you just mentioned the word story, the story of this game, it's still a big story because people around the country are talking about the Bears still positively.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what I can appreciate about the overall effort of the game.
Yeah, I'm not even as concerned about that. I do appreciate that they're looking at this as the Bears belong and all that. I almost cringe when I hear it because that story sings as long as they want to play the music. You know what I'm saying? Like it can shift on the dime, but we're living this experience here. We've seen a lot, and we've seen this team from the very first offseason practice to where they are right now and how far they've come in so many different ways. And for me, it's this stubbornness that they show up to play with. You're not gonna knock these guys out with an uppercut. You're gonna have to take them full 16 rounds down to the mat before they say, okay, let's call it a day. This is it. This is not going to be an easy out. This Bears team is not an easy out for any team from here for the rest of the year, and probably as long as Ben Johnson is the head coach here. Not going to let it be any other way.
Right. But that's why I have such an appreciation for the entire coaching staff. The message starts with Ben Johnson. But when you look at every one of these assistant coaches and you look at the positions they coach, the performance of their players, their preparedness, no matter what they're expected to see or what they unexpectedly see. And that's super encouraging to me. We're only not relying on Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson and his staff is what we're relying on.
Hey, Bears fans, gear up at the Pro Shops at Soldier Field, your home for officially licensed jerseys, headwear, hoodies, and more. Open daily near the Veterans Memorial Water Wall. The Pro Shops at Soldier Field, a Fanatics experience. Before we get to Ben, I got to ask you this because you've been a player for a long time as well, and you had some near-miss games that you wish you had back, a play that kind of lingers in your mind. They're not easy to get over in retrospect. They have to be. You have to. You can't let it linger to take on what is now a 4-pack of games. 3 of them are going to be at home, and they're all going to be challenging in their own way. But do you have some that kind of just linger to the point of it just makes you angry a little bit?
Yes, but most of those games that linger are the end of the season games. Washington, first round of the playoffs after we finish 86 with the best record in the league. Getting beat at home in an NFC championship game. There's nothing worse. Just for me, though, so just to give a sneak preview of your interview with Ben, he talks about how they don't let one game linger into 2. And so that's the regular season. When you have a lingering effect of a loss, it has that type of reaction, that type of result that it happens in the playoffs. And sometimes here I am 64 years old. I'm still not over those Washington losses the first year and the second year after the Super Bowl. I'm not over the NFC Championship game loss. And so do they have lingering effects? Yeah, because you never forget them.
All right, well, let's listen into Ben. Some good conversation. I never know really where it's going to go. Throw some topics out there, and it was less game-specific and more philosophical and just broad view of this Bears team as they enter, again, the final month of the season. All right, Ben, thanks again for joining us. I'm going to start with the atmosphere of that. The stakes, obviously, as we inch towards the finishing month of the season, the back-and-forth scoring. It honestly, it felt like a playoff game, and I believe that's how the rest of this season is probably going to feel for you. This football team also appears to be perfect type of mentality for a December, January brand of football. Would you agree with everything I just said?
Absolutely. You come in a building year one, and we bring new faces in that locker room, but yet you just don't know exactly how the team's going to shape up, and yet I got a great feel for them now. That's the type of game that you want to be in. We got a number of competitors. I mean, it's the best case scenario. It's Lambeau Field. It's cold weather. It's a rivalry game. A lot on the line, and I thought our guys, mindset wise, they were right where they needed to be. Now, execution wise, we can be better, but I thought they handled it really well going into that game, staying poised, handling the pressure of the game. And making it close there at the end. Wish we would have come through, but we're going to need that. We're going to need that going forward here. We got 4 weeks to finish December here on a high note, and hopefully earn the right to have more games after that.
What has been your experience with teams that have had, this has been a team that has had multiple streaks, and then you have a little bit of a punch there with the loss, how they respond because they get used to winning.
Yeah, well, I think here's what I know. I know we're a good team at this point. I know that. And I also know that good teams don't allow one loss to become 2 losses. And we had that happen to us early in the season, week 1 to week 2, but hasn't happened since then. So I anticipate us to respond the right way here. We're going to get back to work when they come back in on Wednesday, and we're going to look to compete here against a Cleveland team that has some good things about them. I know what their record says, but their defense is strong. Their offense has some life now with a different quarterback, and so we're going to have to be on our stuff.
Belief is a powerful feeling, obviously, and this team believes in itself. But if you go down to a microscopic level to individuals that may have never had this opportunity, and we've already discussed them throughout the season, from Nishan to DeMarco Jackson to Devin Duvernay, coming up with that catch at a critical time in the game. There are others, but how important is it raised all boats to believe, in other words, in terms of guys that maybe haven't had a lot of playing time in their careers but are being asked to make big plays here now?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's something we talk about early on when we finish training camp, that despite what your role is to start the season, at some point your number is going to be called, and you got to be ready. And those guys have handled that really well. We playing Amon at linebacker and D-Jack, like you talked about, and Duvernay is known all along that he might be the fourth or fifth receiver, yet when his number's called, he's got to come through and make a big play for us, which he did. And so none of us are surprised. I think all of our guys handle it really well, and each week we're just looking to improve when we're on that practice field. The guys on practice squad, they don't know when their time's coming, but they're all prepared and they're ready to go.
The throw to Olamide Zaccheaus, they were tighter than two coats of paint. Nixon and the sidearm zip, perfect MPH on the throw, perfect placement. That's a jaw dropper, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those you talk about with Caleb. You don't coach it. He put it right on the money. I think that's a harder catch than what it looks like as well. So a lot of credit there to OZ being able to haul that one in. So you talk about needing it. That was a huge play for us.
There will be a game when all those tough throws, they're just going to come in. They're going to come in at a rate, and you're going to be like, whoa. This is what happened. This is what I've been telling you, everybody. This is a process. He's doing very well in things that are important to lead up to have these big moments. And I get the sense from listening to all of your news conferences and conversations we have that you feel it definitely is headed in that direction.
It is. And, sometimes you feel like it's moving faster than other times, but that's part of coaching. That's part of playing. He's working as hard as he possibly can. He puts in so much time and effort. This thing's so important to him. You really can't ask for anything more than that as a coach. And I think we got a great system around him, and it's going to click. It's all going to come together at some point. We just don't know when. And until that time, let's continue to find ways to win games, and whether that's ugly or whatnot, it's okay. It's hard to win in this league. So I think we're going to be, when this thing really starts clicking, I salivate a little bit just think about the potential that we have as an offense and a team when we're really going to be on our P's and Q's.
Honestly, it feels almost like you have to, in some sense, buy some time. You're buying time, yet performing at a high level, winning games in every game, right down to the wire, until everything does come together, where you can start delivering the big wins, the big gaps, the margin of victory, the dominance. Well,
and I think it's how we built the roster and how we designed the offense too. Was we wanted to have a strong running game in mind as well, and we've been able to achieve that since the bye week, and so that plays a big part of allowing us to grow and develop this passing game. And it's not just Caleb. I know a lot gets made with him, but with how detailed and intimate we are with some of these route concepts and how we need things run to have the proper spacing and really put the stress on the defense, it takes a little bit of time. There's still some things that popped up yesterday on that tape that is, well, shoot, guys, it's December football now, and we've been running this route since the springtime. We got to get this down right, and so we're going to get there. We're not there yet, but we're going to get there.
Let me ask you about that. So there's not variance. It's like you run a route. There's a certain number of steps, certain number of yards. You got the route tree, and I know coaches past who have been here that I've had conversations like Mike Martz, always would blame the receivers. You got to be there. Be there. That's it. There's no. But what does a defense do to cause a variance? Can they also, or you have to be stubborn as a route runner and just, what's the byplay there?
Well, no, I think we make it, I think, at least to me, it's important that these guys know that they're not robots. We don't want robots out there, and yet we need structure, and the quarterback needs to know where you're going to be. And so sometimes it's steps, sometimes it's depth. There's times where we're reading the defense, and we just need to be consistent with how we execute those things so that the quarterback knows where to look for number one or where number two is going to be, and as he's able to progress through this thing. So within that route, though, that's where your route running savvy and expertise, and call it your artistry, can come out to the forefront. I always like to say the passing game, as coaches, we've got lines drawn for you, but you're responsible as the players to color it in, however you see fit. And so I think that's the best analogy I can give you.
So Kyle Monangai broke a helmet of the opposition. Edgerrin Cooper.
I missed that. How about that? Huh.
The chip goes flying off in the air.
Nice.
What is this human being? I mean,
he's a cyborg, is what he is. Is he human? I don't know. I mean,
you relish this kind of player on your roster.
Oh my gosh, yeah. He just every week, man. He brings it. He's not a rookie, At this point, everything he does just screams veteran. It screams, put this on my back and let me handle it. I think he does a phenomenal job. I know our O-line loves him. Does a great job in pass pro, which I appreciate as well. And like you just said, those are some physical linebackers there that we just played, and he doesn't bat an eye. He doesn't turn anything down.
How much of a value do you place on competitive tenacity?
Oh yeah, I think it's the number one quality that we're looking for when we bring players into the building. I think that's we got to have guys that want to compete and want to do it at a high level, and they're desperate to do so.
One thing on the defense, overall, I didn't get a chance that we're dwelling on the offense, but give us a quick snapshot, conversations with DA, and just how that all went down.
Well, we started fast. We start with the interception in the first half, and then the next possession, we force them to punt. So it's a good start to the first half, and then in the second half, we have a 3-and-out that we really needed, down 14-3 to get us the offense the ball back so that we could score some points. And so like the way that we started both the halves, but yet end of the day, it's 8 possessions, it's 4 touchdowns. That's not up to our standard. We need to make them work harder for those touchdowns. They were only in the red zone one time, and so that tells you that 3 of those 4 touchdowns were coming from explosive plays. So we got to clean those up. We got to be better. We got to make them go the long, hard road, and if we do that, we're likely to have them settle for field goals instead of those touchdowns, which would go a long way in a game like that.
And you mentioned also every little thing matters right now. The 3rd and 1 Jacobs run, 4 guys standing right around him. That's a play that would make a potential big difference.
Yeah, I mean, and you can every week you can kind of single out what the big plays were that you wish you had back, and that's one of probably the 4 we had on defense. That golly darn it, we had them dead to rights, and we just didn't get them on the ground.
Speaking of cyborgs, Myles Garrett is one. Is there a more abusive, athletic defensive lineman, with all due respect to guy? I mean, to me, he's the Aaron Donald of edge. He's the Aaron Donald version of an edge rusher.
Yeah. I'm at the point now. I haven't even turned on the tape yet. I'm a little bit nervous to be honest with you. And so I know what the rumblings have been all season long. I know he's leading the league in sacks, and it's just add him to the list of guys now that we faced this season that we deem as game wreckers. We've had Aiden Hutchinson, we've had Max Crosby, we've had Micah Parsons now, and this will be the next one on the list. And so we're going to have to be on it.
Yeah, a snapshot on Shedeur as we wrap up?
Same thing. I hadn't had a chance to look. The numbers would tell you, though, that he's doing a good job. They're moving the ball, and they're scoring some points. I know it was a high-scoring affair there yesterday for them, and feels like he's given them a little bit of life there on offense.
Thank you so much.
Yep, thanks.
One thing real quick was I got a kick out of seeing his face when I told him Monangai broke Edgerrin Cooper's helmet.
Yeah.
Should have seen his face. He had this a devilish look on his face, because that was That was hellacious collision, man. That was something else. But, is that going to leave a reminder here for the game that's going to be, following Cleveland? Like, man, these guys are ferocious. Edgerrin Cooper is going to know that it's not going to easy. Again, back to the no easy outs on this team.
Well, I think they had the anticipation of Kyle Monangai coming into the game because these guys see the tape. They understand when they look at a sideline view and they look at an end zone view, especially from a defensive perspective, and they see the approach and the non-hesitation he has when he hits the hole. So those guys knew what they were up against, but then you throw the cold weather, you throw all the other dynamics into an emotional game like that. The crowd noise was maybe one of the top three loudest crowds I've ever heard in Green Bay.
Yeah.
And so compliment to their fans, and I expect the same from the Bears in a couple weeks. But, I admire the way that they carried themselves. I have admired Monangai. When you and Ben talked about some of the arm angles of Caleb and how efficiently he threw the ball, they talked about the next man up mentality of Devin Duvernay. So I like to hear the interview between you and Ben because it's interesting topic, and he doesn't speak in cliches. He speaks in facts and sentences.
Yeah, he sure does. I got to ask you because I had some friends that were saying, gosh, Caleb, that's a really hard throw going to his left. You know how many times we've seen that? That his favorite player growing up was Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers loves rolling to his left and throwing against the grain. And some guys, and so this was a quote that I read in the Sun-Times. Patrick Finley had the quote because, again, offensive and defensive coaches are available on a every other week basis, and I find it a wellspring of information that they enjoy discussing their players. And this was, and I wish I was in on the conversation to have heard more, but this is quarterback coach J.T. Barrett. He says only Mahomes does it better rolling to his left, throwing against his body. Freaky stuff in his body, he's referring to Caleb, where he rotates that torso and flicks it like it ain't no big deal. And that is a credit to Caleb. He does, and he has spice on that throw. He has, but he underthrew this one. I get it, but we've seen him put some MPH on those balls, no matter what arm angle and which way he's rolling. Would you agree?
100%. I think Mahomes and Caleb, they have a very similar template. You look at the structure of their body and how they have a lot of midsection power. And so if it is a flick of the wrist with making sure their hips are turning with their arm, that's why you have that power. That's why you have that accuracy. And that's why they don't shy away from that type of pass that maybe isn't coached. It's just done with repetitions throughout your quarterback life. And so I think, when you talk about a guy that's just scratching the surface of ultimately where he's going, Caleb is in the infancy stages of where he's ultimately going to be as a quarterback in the league.
Also, he's gaining some respect from opposition. Micah Parsons, he had a few choice words. Can't say him on the radio here. Can't say him on the podcast. But he basically called him a pit bull and said that his strength is real. Like he was very frustrated trying to track him down all day. Tom, he never got to him, and it'll be something to watch in the second meeting how they adjust. But they put him all over the line of scrimmage. They had him at defensive tackle. They had him stacked as a linebacker. They had him on the left side. They had him on the right side. But no sacks, and that was big for me. And he wasn't chasing either. He didn't put forth all that effort to chase down something.
But they had an exactly same play that Micah Parsons had against the Detroit Lions and he had against Caleb, both of the games in Green Bay. He broke through the line of scrimmage and Jared Goff was already breaking out to the right. Micah Parsons chased him down and sacked him. They had the exact same play that was reenacted this week. Micah Parsons, Caleb broke out to the right. Micah Parsons chased him and couldn't catch him. That's the difference of the two. And Jared has a lot of experience and he's proven that since he's been there. But Caleb is just gaining those experiences that he'll feed off of in the future.
1 assisted tackle and 2 hurries for Micah Parsons. Now, overall, they had, according to Pro Football Focus, 16 pressures but just the 1 sack from Caleb. So Caleb is an expert at avoiding trouble, and hopefully he continues to do that as you get ready to take on Myles Garrett and the Cleveland Browns. We'll get to that in just a moment. Good news, Chicago. United Airlines is getting brand new planes with all the bells and whistles like Bluetooth connectivity, screens at every seat, and room for everyone's roller bag. United, proud to fly the Chicago Bears and you too. And introducing Cruz Blanca, a line of Mexican-American premium cervezas. Cruz Blanca, Cerveza refreshed. Proud partner of the Chicago Bears. I want to talk about C.J. Gardner-Johnson because I don't know what his role was going to be before the news that Kyler Gordon was not going to be able to play because of his pregame groin injury, but he played a full game, and he led the Bears in tackles. He had the interception. And I have to say, you know, in the world of where would a defense be or where would a unit be without the sudden appearance of C.J. Gardner-Johnson this season. He's been in the other end of some very big plays already, and including, you know, that interception against Green Bay. But he had his hands full yesterday. They have a variety of weapons that they have to deal with in that secondary for the Bears, and they're all various kinds, different speeds, different sizes, different traits. Tom, is that in your opinion the best way to describe the kind of day that C.J. Gardner-Johnson had to deal with?
Yeah, so, you know, if they didn't have C.J. Gardner-Johnson, I think they would have been able to develop someone to step up to the plate and accept that responsibility. But because when you have a veteran coach like Dennis Allen and you have the experience of the defensive coaches as a whole, and you have experience with the player, then you bring him aboard and he kind of fits right in. Because you know how to coach him, you know what he needs to learn, you know how he can fit in with the rest of the experience around him, and you're fortunate to have a Kevin Byard, Jaquan Brisker playing to his right and his left. But Gardner-Johnson has really filled a role on this football team when from the moment he came aboard, there was no woe's me attitude. It was look what we can do with him type of attitude. And we see multiple sacks in a game. We see interceptions. We see the types of plays that he's willing to make because he is a physical defensive back. And I'm sure that all the defensive coaches, Ben Johnson, Dennis Allen, are really appreciating the effort and the commitment he's given the Bears so far.
Yeah, I just would have loved it, you know, because there was a little bit of that in Philadelphia. You've seen both guys out there because you could put a defense in some real question marks on how to, well, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? You know, but this defense has not been whole, not one time this season. Everybody together. Name one. I don't even know.
Right. Well, you know, you got Noah Sewell coming back. You got T.J. Edwards coming back. You still got Tremaine Edmonds waiting in the wings. So is this something that the perfect storm is going to hit the Bears at the last couple of games of the season when everybody's available? And now you got to make some real responsible decisions for game day activation. It's an exciting thing for a coaching staff to really have.
It is. You know, there's ramp up going on there too, and I know these people. So Tremaine's probably going crazy. TJ was going crazy. Kyler's had to deal with 3 different types of injuries. They got to get that figured out and right. Jalen obviously was frustrated, and you know, fitting back in even late in the year after you just invested an entire off-season training camp and then have suffered injuries over the course of the season. Everybody's got to go through it, but you just hope that the competitive nature of this football team right now brings the best out of everybody at the right, like you said, perfect storm at the right possible time.
You know, I never missed a game, so I couldn't even imagine what that would be like to, you know, miss time and, you know, kind of, you know, you want to contribute and do everything you possibly can, but because of an injury, you got to, you know, wait for your health status to come back complete. Hey,
Tom, I got to ask you about Theo Benedict. So it looks like he was going to be the number one option, like you had said on the broadcast on that. How about that?
But that's a penalty. You know, so you mentioned that when he came across in motion, he got his legs cut off from underneath him. That's a defensive penalty nowadays. And so it was completely ignored, I think, because they saw 79 in motion and it wasn't an 80 or a tens number.
I wish I would ask Ben about that then. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and I was looking at it again on film, and I'm going, look, this is a penalty. This has to be brought to the attention of the officials, because there's a chance that they could run him again. He could be a disguise, but you can't just cut his legs out from underneath him. It was the same penalty that happened in the game. I think the Kansas City Houston game this week.
Right, because you got to treat him as a tight end in that situation.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Interesting, Tom. Interesting. Saw your eyes get real wide there. Score big at your local Chevy dealer. The Chevy Silverado will take you through this season in style. Chevy Drive Chicago, official truck partner of the Chicago Bears.
Can I bring up one more point?
Oh, you can bring up many. You can bring up many.
Let me just bring up one, because we saw Theo Benedette when he comes in and he announces himself eligible in the big package. But on the first 3rd and 1 of that 17-play drive, they went to an unbalanced line, and they had Darnell Wright lined up next to the left tackle, and they had Jonah Jackson and 2 tight ends on the right-hand side. And Colston, Cole, and Jonah Jackson, they all had dominating blocks. And then you saw that play open up. It's just, so you got the big packages that, you got to make it obvious. But it's kind of a secret big package that you don't have to alert the officials, because you're going over there to line up as an offensive tackle. So I really found interest in that formation.
All right. What's the strategy? What's the strategy of it, and why not use it more?
Well, the strategy of it is, if you have a guy like Micah Parsons, now you want to run to the right-hand side where you have a guard and 2 really good blocking tight ends. Now you're going, oh, my God, Micah Parsons has got to go lined up as far as away from the ball as he possibly can, because he's going to have to line up over the left tackle if that's going to be the point of attack. Because then you'd have offensive tackle Joe Tooney and Drew Dahlman. And so it's kind of that moving the chess pieces around, a little bit of strategy, 3rd and 1, important down. So I think it was kind of neat to see.
Are there benefits to doing an unbalanced line like that at the goal line?
Well, I guess there are, and we see it when Detroit puts in Dan Skipper, number 70, a big 6'9", 325-pound offensive lineman. But because you have short yardage and goal line packages, most of the time the big guys are all included on goal line offense. So there are a lot of time they're already inserted.
All right, so let's take a look at Cleveland, unless you have more thoughts. Anything from your tape review that you wrote down on your notes that stick out, defense or offense or special teams?
So I was looking at a defense that it was like the modern day Bear version of the Bear defense. They got Andrew Billings on the nose. They got Grady Jarrett over the left guard, Jervon Dexter, and they got Booker and Montez Sweat on the outside. It kind of, you see it and you think of, okay, this is the personnel that you can run this defense with. Now, is it a defense you'll see more? Because that defense is not fun for offensive line to play against, because every single guy has to win their block in order for them to win the play. So let's see if, like the unbalanced line we just talked about, let's see if that Bear defense shows up a little bit more.
All right, so there's got to be a safety involved for the true Bear front, right? So which one would be the man of choice there?
Oh God,
to fit that kind of role that you guys had.
Well, I mean, you could have a Gardner Johnson, you could have a Kevin Byard with his intelligence and experience, and you could have Jaquan Brisker. And then you still have a middle linebacker that's backing up the defensive line. But I just found it interesting when I was watching tape, because it caught my eyes immediately, and it was like, watching this, Bear defense all over again.
You see much of it in the league right now, or
no?
Yeah, it doesn't. And the
it's a personnel-driven defense, Jeff. You got to have the right players in place, and when you got an immovable object like Andrew Billings, you're not going to give up. And then you have quick guys like Grady Jarrett that can explode and win a one-on-one immediately, and because that there's not going to be an offensive lineman that's going to help him. So I would like to see him, and I hope they use it some more.
In your opinion, do do defensive minds from the past look at that as, can they stop the run consistently, or is this just to create just as much unknown where pressure's coming from in the passing game for the quarterback? Do you think it got a bad rap at times after it disintegrated from here and became, not as useful because you said it's personnel driven? You got to have the very right types of players.
Well, when Buddy Ryan got hired by the Philadelphia Eagles and they had that dominant defensive front with Jerome Brown and Clyde Simmons and Ron Pitts and Reggie White played over the center in the 46 defense.
Yikes.
Where Dan Hampton played over the center in the 46 defense with the Bears.
Yikes.
Now you're talking about two Hall of Famers that are playing the dominance of that specific space on that defense. So, like I said, it'd be fun to see again. And the thing about it, too, is you have to investigate the vulnerability of maybe a offensive lineman. You say this guy has a bad time moving right to left. This guy has a hard time handling one-on-ones. They don't have a specific protection that can match up against this front. So those are things that you'll have to see. And maybe it's a rookie quarterback that you show this front to who hasn't had a lot of college experience seeing a 46 front.
Oh, how did the offensive line handle the fronts that the Green Bay Packers threw at them in this game?
Really good. I think what they're, again, they never, Ben or the offensive line never got frustrated with some of the stalemates that were created in the first half that opened up into big plays in the second half. And I think as the game went on, the Bears offensive line got more physical, and they were able to make sure they had the first line of defense moved until they got up to the second line of defense. One of those 3rd and 1s, Drew Dahlman did a really nice job helping Joe Tooney at the line of scrimmage, but being linebacker aware. As that linebacker tried to fire through his right shoulder gap, he was able to disengage and go and block the linebacker. So it's an intelligent group that gets better as the game goes on.
How do you tell a cashier you're a Bears fan without telling them you're a Bears fan? With the Chicago Bears PNC Bank Visa debit card, which gets you exclusive discounts on Bears merchandise. Find out more at pnc.com/BearsCard. So I got to tell you a story, and you may remember this, you may not, but the Bears are getting ready to play the Detroit Lions, and I went up to former Bears offensive lineman Roberto Garza to talk about Ndamukong Suh. And the way it came out, it made it seem like, oh my gosh, it is. I mean, how can you stop this guy? He's violent. And Roberto's like, hey, hold on, man. He's a human. I mean, we can't be scared. And he just went off on me, right? And I just think that was part of the tempestuousness of the moment, because Ndamukong Suh, was definitely played through the echo of the whistle and more, and he was a big bad man, right? Now you get a big bad man, Myles Garrett, coming in. You can't make him seem like he's not blockable, but wow, this is a player that I think you would compare in a favorable light, not in the terms of stylistically or anything, but he's a Reggie White type. He's a Lawrence Taylor type. He's a guy that you can have 3 guys on him, he can still beat you in a triple team. He's done it.
In your interview with Ben, you kind of put an Aaron Donald comparison in there, because there is a little bit of Aaron Donald in him, even though he plays the defensive end position. His explosiveness, his size, his commitment to strength in the weight room is really helped him be a better football player, more durable and more dominant. But you know where he's going to line up. Just like Reggie White was going to be lined up over the right tackle. Big Cat Williams, Keith Van Horn, they played Reggie as well as anybody has in the NFL. Now we're going to be, he's an opponent that you don't see very often. The Bears haven't played Cleveland in a while, but here is Myles Garrett. And I think the construction of the protection, you have to understand about Myles Garrett is you got to close that distance down as quickly as you possibly can. You can't set back and let him charge at you. Then you give his strength and his quickness and his variety of moves the advantage. So you want to close that distance, Jeff, and you don't want to give him the length of the arms to swat you. You want to get your hands into his body and start controlling him. So it's going to be an interesting formula of attack.
Yeah, how about as a wide? If he goes into a wide 9 situation, that's a lot of space just by virtue of the alignment. How do you close that
wide
gap?
9? Then the Bears have really good blocking tight ends. And if you get a wide 9 and you put them that far away from the quarterback, you can also devise a scheme where maybe you're kind of having a roll or a waggle protection that sneaks the quarterback out to the right-hand side. And you get them out that wide and you get 2 bodies to them. That's just giving you that extra. I'm not looking for minutes. I'm looking for seconds. And so if you can do that to Myles Garrett, then fine and dandy. And, there is no, he is going to line up out there at times.
Let me ask you this. What does he particularly challenge in an offensive lineman or a double team or a triple team in terms of the techniques and fundamentals? What part of those does he challenge the most?
Distance, strength. So if I'm trying to be an offensive lineman, and the always definition of pass blocking is give ground grudgingly. So if you're sitting there giving ground grudgingly and you're allowing Myles Garrett to use his strength and his athleticism and he's slapping your hands away before your hands ever get to his body, he has a chance to keep that separation and then use that formula for the power he has. So that's what I'm saying. You got to try to close that distance down. You're going to be at home. You're going to know the snap count. You got to use the snap count as a weapon against a guy like Myles Garrett to make him be difficult in the combativeness that you're going to present to him.
20 sacks, trying to get the record. Bears got to make sure it doesn't happen here. I don't know if you've watched much of Cleveland yet, but Shedeur Sanders, now head coach there, has said that he's the starter the rest of the season. And it's funny. Before the season, I write little snippets about the schedule. And I'm going to go on my binder here, my trusty little black binder that I carry about. And here's what I wrote. This was in the preseason. I wrote, this was week 15, December 14th. Not sure who will be quarterbacking the Browns at this point in the season. Heck, maybe it'll be Shedeur Sanders. I didn't think that would be the case, but that's what happened. Kevin Stefanski led the Browns to their first playoff appearance since 2020, and first playoff win in 26 years, but a lot has gone wrong since. Myles Garrett is a predator that must be blocked. 3rd overall pick, Mason Graham of Michigan, defensive tackle. He'll be a keep an eye on guy. New plan at running back, Quinshon Jenkins, a man to watch. And these are all true statements now.
Jenkins. Listen, Jenkins is Shedeur's best friend. He's a good running back. He's got explosiveness. He's got a 25 carry a game mentality. He's got a lot of success in college. So you can't deny the fact that a rookie quarterback's best friend is a good running back. And that's exactly what Shedeur has there right now. And Shedeur, he's had time to build a relationship with some of these receivers, even though he was complaining about it in his first start. Shedeur is a good athlete. He's got good arm strength and probably one of the most self-confident late-round quarterback draft choices I've ever seen.
Yeah, and it's on a grand stage. It's Chicago. It's the charter franchise. It's the big city. It's a big moment for them. They took Tennessee and they had a big game there in terms of point total. The production almost 400 yards. Tommy Reese is calling the plays. He was around this building with Bill Reese from the Bears personnel department.
He was a ball boy when we started,
right?
And now here he is as an offensive coordinator in the NFL.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy how this all works, but it'll be a game that is going to get a lot of attention for this reason. It is the next game on the schedule. It's the most important game because it's the next one, but it's got to be treated as a playoff game. No matter what they're at, it's got to be treated from the Bears' perspective as a playoff game because there is a lot riding on this and the rest of this season, and you just can't. And I know Ben and his coaching staff will do a great job, but even me, just the play-by-play announcer, a guy observing all of this, it's funny how you can allow yourself to just sneak peek around the corner again at what's after that because of what just happened there. And you know what I'm talking about. It's an interesting sandwich here, Tom. The Browns are in the sandwich, but you can't let that other piece of bread get into them. You know what I'm saying? It's a dumb analogy, but
there's a lot of teams in the NFL that have that same narrative. They're talking about this. We're already into the playoffs. We need to win this game. They're fighting in their division, just like the Bears are fighting in our division. So, yeah. And listen, there's no denying this is a monumental game, and for a lot of different reasons. For the continuous development of the Bears, for what Myles Garrett is going after, for a personality like Shedeur Sanders, for a personality like Caleb. There's just a lot of talking points, a lot of stories for this game.
There sure is, Tom, and you will be a story as well, because you'll be at the call starting at noon on ESPN 1000. We got another podcast later this week. Hope to get a little Browns perspective somehow, some way. But until then, we will let you go. Hey, Bears fans, Steinhoffel's a proud partner of the Chicago Bears. This Bears season, Steinhoffel's is partnering with Special Spaces Illinois to create dream bedrooms for children battling cancer. For every false start caused by the Bears defense during a home game, Steinhoffel's will donate $1,000 to Special Spaces Illinois. Shop in store and online at steinhoffels.com. That's going to do it for us. Got to appreciate head coach Ben Johnson, as always. Appreciate his candor and appreciate his time. For Tom Thayer, I'm Jeff Joniak. Please subscribe now to the Chicago Bears official app, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Bear down, everybody.